Hello there and welcome to Dialog TVS, where we bring you meaningful conversations with thought leaders, industry experts and prominent figures. Here with me, Shoshmato.
And I'm Douglas Elliott, touted as the fuel of the future. Hydrogen has garnered its attention as a promising fuel source as well as a game changer in the new energy revolution. And with global market valuation projected to be upwards, get this, 1.4 trillion US dollars. How does Sarawak, a small yet mighty industry player in the region, aims to have a slice of that lucrative cake?
Right, that's right, Douglas. And of course, the topic of the hour is on energy. And joining us today to unravel the plan is Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Abdul Aziz, Chairman of Sarawak Economic Development Corporation, SEDC, and the strategic mastermind behind Sarawak's new energy transition. Thank you for joining us, Tan Sri.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. And of course, the topic of the hour, as we said, is energy. And we're all aware there's renewable energy, which Sarawak itself has over 20 years of experience. And there's also new energy that emerges around 5 years ago. What's the difference between these two energy? And of course, as the strategic mastermind behind Sarawak's energy transition, what makes the state venture into the set?
I think one of the most pertinent reasons why we are venturing into this renewable energy is, of course, sustainability. We need to reduce carbon emission. It's one of the targets of the world, actually. And by doing this, we'll be able to combat climate change and to get to the zero carbon effect, which is the target for 2050. So this environmental sustainability is one of the most important, I think, area which I think Sarawak is also helping not only the nation but actually the world. And the other reason is, of course, we would like to have energy security, because our, as you know, fossil fuel will not be there forever. So renewable energy in whatever form will actually take place of these other traditional energy forms, and hopefully in the future this renewable energy will be able to replace this current fossil fuel that we are now currently using. And of course we need to develop the state, and one way of developing the state is through this new sector where we can actually create jobs and attract investments, especially from overseas foreign investment, and of course to improve the innovativeness of our people. Because I think innovation is one way in which we can create growth, and especially in the economy. The other reason, also important, is environmental conservation, where, as you know, Sarawak is the home of many diverse species and of plants and fauna and flora, and we would like to preserve that. And by having this using renewable energy, we can actually clean our environment and preserve this our environment and also our flora and fauna. Now, talking about green hydrogen, of course, as you said, green hydrogen is actually touted as the fuel of the future, and I fully believe in that. Is something that I think will be the future, will be used in the future for our mobility and also for our source of energy. And of course, the production of green hydrogen, the reason why we want to produce green hydrogen is because we can, because we have the what you call renewable energy source in the form of hydropower mostly, and maybe later on some other sources like wind, solar, which can actually be used to produce green energy, and which can produce green hydrogen. So here, of course, Sarawak has the advantage because we have a lot of rain, a lot of rivers, so we can generate hydropower, and from there, actually renewable energy, which can in turn be used to produce green hydrogen through the process of electrolysis.
Right, Tan Sri. Speaking of green hydrogen, I'm made to aware that there are spectrum of colors for hydrogen. So there's blue, there's even gold, I'm made to understand. So what is the difference between blue and green, perhaps, and which is better from your point of view?
Of course, green is the better one because it is created from what you call renewable energy sources like hydropower or solar or from wind sources. It is, that means it is totally clean without any form of carbon dioxide in terms of emission when we produce it. So for blue hydrogen, it comes mostly from our gas. That means when you process the gas, okay, the raw gas from our various offshore platforms, for example, in Sarawak, then this gas will be processed into syngas, which then can be processed into methanol or ammonia. Now, the hydrogen that is produced in the process of producing methanol or ammonia, you produce syngas, which actually is hydrogen, plus some other, plus water vapor and other carbon dioxide. Now, so in order to make this hydrogen blue, that means you have to remove the CO2. All right. Now, the CO2, once you remove the CO2 from this process and then sequester it, maybe put it inside the earth back into the earth or use it for other things, then the resultant hydrogen will become blue hydrogen. So actually the difference is actually in terms of how hydrogen is produced. If you don't sequester the hydrogen, if you don't sequester the CO2, the hydrogen will become gray hydrogen. Now, when you sequester it, then the hydrogen is termed as blue hydrogen, or we also term it as low carbon hydrogen, because there's still some carbon CO2, that has been produced. So that's the main difference. Now, so in Sarawak, actually, hydrogen will be producing both for domestic and export. Domestically, we intend to use hydrogen more for mobility. That means to be used in cars. In cars, hydrogen will be used for as a fuel to run the fuel cell. All right, and the fuel cell will actually convert back the hydrogen and oxygen into power, into electricity that runs a motor, and then make the car move. So the same thing for our train or our ART or buses. So we would like actually to replace fossil fuel that is now being used, like petrol or diesel, with hydrogen. Because when we use hydrogen, the only resulting output is water, and it's pure water, which you can even drink. Yeah.
That's right, Tan Sri. And also, speaking of, or you have explained with us also the technicality, the difference between green and blue hydrogen. And of course, as Sarawak, its transition to this new energy is also to become exporter itself also. Now, with new sustainability transitions, of course, comes price. And with price comes cost, right, Douglas? And also for us, we want to know, the cost of producing hydrogen is high. So what is your take on that, Tan Sri?
Well, it is high now. I think the Premier spoke about this in many of his speeches, that actually the current cost of hydrogen is high. So, of course, one of our focus together with our partners is actually to bring the cost of hydrogen down. The cost of hydrogen into the market, if possible, down, so that people can actually use hydrogen and benefit from it by the even lower cost than the cost of fossil fuel. And there's something that we are working on. I think we will be able to actually succeed in this eventually, because a lot of people are working on it actually. And we are now working with a few groups together. Hopefully by next year, we'll see the result. And at the moment, for example, the cost of producing hydrogen is high because there's a lot of power that's required to produce the amount of hydrogen. Now we can reduce the amount of power in order to produce the same amount of hydrogen. Then of course the cost will be lower, because 80%, almost 80% of the cost of hydrogen production is in power, the cost of power. And the cost of power is high, like in many other countries, the cost will be higher. But of course, Sarawak is one of the cheapest, where we have the cheapest cost of power. So of course, even at the moment, our hydrogen production is lower than most other countries, which has higher cost of power. But now what we are going to do is to find ways and means of focusing on areas of research where we can actually produce hydrogen at a much lower power requirement than currently. And with that, and this is possible because we are now discovering there are catalysts that can be actually placed inside our existing electrolyzers, for example, both alkaline and PEM electrolyzer, in order to bring the cost of power down so that the power requirement will be much less, even half of what is we're doing now. By doing that, of course, the total cost of production will be much less, and hopefully the consumer later on will be paying a much less price for hydrogen. And of course, the cost of hydrogen is not just the cost of production itself. There's the cost of transportation. There's the cost of actually storing hydrogen, because hydrogen, especially for mobility, will need to be stored in high pressure. And the cost of containing them at high pressure is quite high. This is one of the biggest costs. And this is also something we're looking at to see how we can actually reduce that storage cost. Because now we have to actually pressurize the hydrogen to almost 1,000 psa, which is about 100 bars, which is quite high. And in order to fill the hydrogen car, which is at 700 psa.
Right, Tan Sri, perhaps you can share a bit with us and also our audience what SEDC's role in promoting as well as spearheading Sarawak's hydrogen economy.
So Sarawak SEDC actually has created our subsidiary SEDC Energy, which is now heavily actually now in the process of making the electrolyzer together with the Petronas, a company called Lestari, and and to bring and that will actually help. By doing our own electrolyzer, for example, we can actually help in lowering down the cost of hydrogen production. At the same time, as you know, we are also building our petrol stations, which not only provide fuel for ordinary cars, petrol, diesel, and other other fuel, but also to provide what you call for EV refueling. I mean, charging of your electric cars, and we also have a hydrogen station. So this will actually help people who are going to buy hydrogen cars to refuel at our stations. And the plan is for us to build 5 flagship stations all over Sarawak. The first one is already completed in Daruhana, and the second one will be in Batu Kawa, should be completed hopefully by this year. And there will be a station to be done or to be constructed in Bintulu, Miri, and hopefully Sri Aman and Sibu. So with this, of course, we'll have to not only to bring about the speed up the hydrogen economy for Sarawak. And of course, as you know, we are also involved in the public transportation system through the KUTS, Kuching Urban Transportation System. Our 100% SEDC subsidiary, Sarawak Metro, is actually handling this. It's still in progress. And hopefully our first commercial run of the ART will be sometime by the end of 25.
Right, end of 25. Because as we're all aware, the first phase, which involves the design, construction, commissioning of the LT lines, was around 8.25% completed in the first quarter of 2023. So what's the current status update, as you mentioned? I mean, is it embarking towards, is it the level of completion towards 2025 later?
Well, I think we are on target. We have actually awarded the contracts for the systems and also the construction of the actual line from Samarahan to Kuching Central. And of course, as you know, that is the one of the line. We also have the red line. There's the blue line. The red line will be from the airport from Kuching Central to the airport to our point here in Pending, and from there continue with the green line right up to Damai. So hopefully we will be able to complete all this by 2026 or latest 2027. Yeah.
I see, definitely. And Douglas, of course, we are very excited to know more on the progress and, of course, to see the next phase of completion for that. However, I think as we go further more into other aspects of energy transition and hydrogen itself as well, and of course SEDC's role in this amazing project, I'm afraid we have to go for a short commercial break. For the viewers at home, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break. Hello there, and welcome back to Dialog TVS, still with Douglas and I, and of course with the strategic mastermind behind Sarawak's new energy transition, Tan Sri Dato' Amar Abdul Aziz, here with us still on the energy transition of the hour. Now, of course, previously, right, Tan Sri, we were also touching and talking on the topic of the transition, of course, not only in hydrogen itself, and also with hydrogen comes its transportation system as well. And as we're all aware, Sarawak Metro Sdn Bhd is a subsidiary of SEDC. Now, is embarking on this exciting project, as we all know, that is the KUTS project, the Kuching Urban Transport System project that you mentioned earlier. Now, you mentioned with us the status update of your project, and maybe would you delve into further on the ART, as we all know, maybe perhaps for the viewers also as well to embark on this project. Yeah.
Okay, the ART actually stands for Autonomous Rapid Transit. Okay, as I think it has been announced by our premier. And this is only actually the phase one of the project for Kuching urban transportation in our planning. And the phase one of the project is expected to be completed in stages. The first one, of course, is to have this commercial operation by the end of 2025. And actually, the first phase comprises of the red line, the blue line, and also the green line. And as I said, the whole project is expected to be completed by the year 27 or 2027. And last year, we have completed the engineering run, as you know, and the POC, the proof of concept of the project around
yes,
this
I was
peninsula.
there. That's I was there to spectate the phenomenal launch.
And of course, the reason why we do this POC is mainly to collect the data and to make sure that this project will be successful and that it will be able to run as required. Later when we actually do the commercial running of the project. And this year in February, we actually commenced the construction of the main building and facilities at Rebus. I think that is something that I think is already well known. The Rebus depot, which is actually covering an area of 54 acres in Kota Samarahan. So it will also not only be the depot for the ART, but also the where we maintain our rolling stock, but also where we also produce the hydrogen that is required. So about 10 tons per day of hydrogen will be produced at the depot, not only for the ART, but also for our buses that also will be running at the time when we start commercial operation. Yeah. And February this year, we will be starting. We have actually started the package one of the blue line from Rubus to Stutong. This includes the construction of 15 kilometers dedicated ART line. And hopefully this includes the bridge that crossed the river. So hopefully this will be completed soon. And in the February this year, we also have appointed the project delivery partner, or PDP, for the development package 2 of the Green Line. And on the second half of this year, we also expected to receive another unit of our hydrogen-powered ART vehicle from China. So we can see more vehicles that will be running before we actually start the commercial operation. Yeah.
Right. Tan Sri, we know that the line spans from Damai in Sutobo all the way up to Kota Semarang. Is there maybe perhaps a possibility that the line would expand up until Serian perhaps?
There are plans actually that we will extend the line to Serian, extend the line right up to Gedong, from the Seramarahan side. And also plans later on, maybe even up to Sematan, Bau, Lundu and Sematan. This is the plan. And there will be other lines, for example, the circular line, which connect all these lines,
all these
the outer
divisions
ring
together. So then Sarawakians from all cross divisions can enjoy the ride of the ART.
Right, sure. Maybe in addition to Kuching, I heard there are some talks as well that the ART will be introduced, might be introduced in Bintulu as well. Maybe for our residents, our viewers in Bintulu, maybe they're a bit excited.
That's right.
Share just a bit.
Yes,
that's right. Actually, we are now doing the feasibility study for the ART in Bintulu. And as you know, there are a lot of people who are now using the buses from Bintulu to the Samalaju Industrial Park. Every day there are like thousands of people going over. And I think it would help a lot if we have this ART line from Bintulu to Samalaju. And hopefully that as the government has already instructed us to get on with this project, the feasibility study hopefully can be completed by this year, and maybe looking at the planning stages and construction by 26 or 27.
I see. That's right. And of course, Tan Sri, we've covered on the KTS project as well, and the transportation system as we have, and also as we talk about transportation as well. Now we would like to dive in deeper also on flights. And of course, as we all know, Sarawak itself and SEDC is also embarking on this ambitious Algae project development. So maybe you can share with us also as well on that. As we all know, Algae is used in SAF, and SAF is also used to fuel probably our next aviation line, perhaps.
Okay, actually, SEDC Energy together with Petronas is jointly developing the algae production technology, which includes the cultivation, harvesting, and the extraction of the CAO, or crude algae oil, from this algae to produce what you call diesel, and later on to refine the CAO, or the crude algae oil, into SAF, or sustainable aviation fuel, which is actually kerosene A1. So the CAO, when refined, will comprise of 50% or more than 50% SAF, or aviation fuel. We also produce about 10% of naphtha, and the balance will be diesel. So there are 3 main products that will come out of this process of the refinery. So actually, SEDC Energy, which is our 100% subsidiary, is also collaborating with Resintech Plastic to supply the plastic, or the container, the tanks for the algae production. Because these plastics are quite expensive, they have to be specially made, a bit transparent in order to bring in the sunlight into the algae. And and they have to be EV proof. That means they can last longer outside in the environment. So, so at the moment we have our nursery farm here in Kuching, a small farm about half acre. But from this nursery we are bringing the seeds to Bintulu. We have another 2-acre farm in Bintulu, about 1,222 tanks. In Bintulu itself, each tank is about 5,000 liters. And this is for us to produce crude algae oil, which we are actually producing now, and about 10 liters a day, I think, on the average. Mainly used to provide our market with samples, so that they will know the specification and at the same time whether they meet the requirements of the industry. Of course, later on, our plan is to actually move over to Samalaju, where we have been allocated with 1,000 acres of land to actually cultivate algae. So and in Samalaju we'll then build not only the plant to convert it to CAO or crude algae oil, but also a refinery to convert it to SAF. And as you know, SAF is something which is actually highly demanded in the aviation industry. And every airline actually would like to have SAF to fill into the airplane in order to meet the requirements. As most European countries require that any airplane landing in Europe must have certain percentage of SAF. And this percentage is actually increasing every year. Yeah.
Right. On that, regarding that SAF, so we know that Singapore, starting probably in 2026, they will require all outbound flights from Singapore to use SAF. But there is a catch, which is there is a levy on the flight tickets. So will this cost more for passengers to buy the tickets, or will in the long run will be cost effective in the long run?
I think the cost of ticket is increasing whether you use SAF or not, but the point is, by using SAF, you'll be using less carbon dioxide or releasing less carbon dioxide to the air, which is I think the most important thing. Because to me, if you have this too much carbon to be released, or we don't actually control the release of this carbon dioxide into the air, it will contribute to climate change, rise in temperature, and will actually lead to the difficulties for human beings. Not only us here in Malaysia, but the whole world will suffer. And as you know, climate change has actually very, very big effects on the environment. More earthquake, more storms, more strong winds, hurricanes, and things like that. So it is imperative for us to actually try to actually reduce down. And the airline industry that is flying all over the world, contribute to a very high percentage, almost 40% of the carbon emission.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's very, very high. So we have to reduce it down. And SAF, by using SAF, will actually reduce this carbon emission from the airline industry.
That's right. And also, as we're all aware, the aviation sector itself is using, the most carbon emissions that we have, but it's most frequently, used all around the world globally. And Sarawak embarking on this journey is definitely exciting. However, again, Douglas and also Tan Sri will be sharing more views, of course, to our viewers at home. This time on energy itself and more into Sarawak's transition and the green economy agenda. So for those at home, don't go anywhere. Again, we'll be back after the break.
Welcome back to Dialog TVS, still on the topic of new energy, especially hydrogen as well as algae. Now, earlier on, Tan Sri, we touched on a bit on the project, algae project as well as hydrogen projects. Now, these projects have attracted the attention, I would say, the attention as well as the interest from not only local corporations, but also from international, such as South Korea and Japan, to come and invest to Sarawak. Now, how does SEDC foster or forge this collaboration?
Well, as you know, because of the cheap power or cheap source of power that we have, and therefore we should be able to actually produce cheaper green hydrogen. This has attracted a lot of attention, of course, as you said, not only locally, but also from other countries, notably from Korea and Japan, because they, in Japan and Korea, both countries do not have sources of renewable power or enough renewable power to meet their requirement, especially to produce green hydrogen, which they would need in order to bring down carbon emission, which is required by their own country, both countries, and also by the protocol, by the UN protocol, for example. So, so they are coming, and they are actually trying to propose to us to produce hydrogen using our renewable energy, which means producing green hydrogen and convert that to, in the case of Korea, to ammonia, that means green ammonia, which can then be transported back to Korea and to be used for the power plants and, of course, for, in some cases, for mobility, that means for the refueling the cars. But I think mostly to actually decrease the use of existing fuel or carbon fuel in the power plants. And the same thing with Japan. Japan, they also would like to us to collaborate to produce hydrogen here in Sarawak and convert it to MCH, which is actually a means of transporting the hydrogen back to Japan, which reconvert back to hydrogen to be used also for in the power plants, also for purpose of mobility. Because as you know, in Japan, they are already producing a lot of fuel cell or hydrogen cars, which are actually used in the streets. But of course, the cost of producing hydrogen in Japan or green hydrogen in Japan is rather high, because they need to use wind power or solar power, which is actually intermittent in nature, therefore more costly. So hopefully, if we can actually cut down the cost of hydrogen production here in Sarawak, we should be able to supply both Korea and Japan with their requirements, the big hydrogen requirement actually, under these two projects, the Hibiscus project and the Hornbill project.
Right, Tan Sri, also we are aware that with these new energy transitions, of course, comes alongside, if we date back to Sarawak, is SEDC playing a very big role in promoting the hydrogen economy. So maybe, Tan Sri, could you also share with us further insights on, as we all know, SEDC has been playing this role for many, many years in promoting hydrogen economy. So how do you deal with the skepticism also as well, and how do we shift, the mentality of Sarawakians to transition from this traditional based economy to a more sustainable green economy?
I think the question is, there are a lot of people who are still skeptical about hydrogen. They think it's dangerous. But I think the most important thing is actually to educate them. So we need to have awareness programs and education, which I think which is also being done in collaboration with the state. And of course, we will be conducting things like workshops and seminars and conferences, and also training programs. And as you know, we have been conducting various conferences on hydrogen, which actually bring out awareness to our people, especially to our younger generation, into the importance of hydrogen, importance of the green economy, and for them to be aware that there are new opportunities that can come out of this. So I think it is really very important. And of course, for us to actually develop into this green economy, we need the infrastructure, right? That means we need actually the facilities for production of hydrogen, the facilities of for the transportation and the storage of hydrogen. At the same time, as looking at algae production of algae, and for all this infrastructure need to be done. Yeah, and of course, one of the most important thing is to actually develop our talent in these areas. And at the moment, of course, there are not many people who are being trained in renewable energy or in hydrogen, and for that matter. So I think one of the things that need to be done is from school to universities, we need actually to inculcate, we need to develop programs and subjects which include renewable energy and of course hydrogen in all its various aspects. And I think this is very important, and so that our people will be able to take full advantage of this new sector of the economy, which they can take part in, and they will also benefit from. Yeah. So it's not only to benefit everybody in terms of better climate, better environment, but also in terms of the economy, in terms of better salaries, better higher standard of living, and actually overall good living environment and condition.
Right. Currently, do we have a model that's being used to develop this talent here in Sarawak?
I think the main thing here is actually to get the universities to develop programs, which in terms of program in renewable energy, in environment, and in terms of hydrogen. For example, instead of just teaching chemistry, they will be teaching more about hydrogen production, and hydrogen storage, and hydrogen transportation. And I think one of the most important things is to get people to be passionate about this, especially in our people, in our research and development area, where they can, as I said just now, our focus is to bring the cost of hydrogen down. And to me, this is actually very critical, because if you can do this, you can bring down the hydrogen price or cost of production by half. That will actually change the whole scenario, because that will bring the price of hydrogen better or lower than the price of fossil fuel for usage in cars and trains and overall mobility.
I see that, Ansari. And also, as you mentioned, of course, the talent pool that we need and will need to meet the demands of the mega projects also that is being mentioned. And Sarawak itself, is rich with its resources, not only in states but also nationwide. And with its ambitious sustainable energy agenda, is drawing a lot of interest from the European Union, EU, as well, Douglas. And also, we have another question here, Ansari. Of course. Which is hydrogen versus EV. Now, competition or growth in tandem?
Well, a lot of people actually ask me this question. But the thing is, both EV and fuel cell car or hydrogen car, they are on the same principle. That means they use electric power. It's only the storage of power is different. In the case of EV, the whole storage is using a battery, or big battery rather, which of course the inconvenience of having to charge it, because it takes time to charge the batteries. And of course the production of EV batteries, especially with lithium, will be something which involve a lot of processes, and some of these processes are actually toxic and produce carbon dioxide. So actually it's not actually very carbon friendly if you think about it. Of course there are development in battery technology. Now they are going for sodium batteries, for example, or sodium ion batteries, which is better. And to me, I see these two technologies as complementary rather than competing, because as far as batteries are concerned, they are good for smaller vehicles, because then charging time is less, battery weigh less, so so they can run if you have a car that runs on battery, to run around the city or town, go office to work, that's good enough. But for big vehicles, lorries, trains, if you put a battery in the weight alone, to carry will be huge. In a bus currently, the weight of the battery is almost 2 tons. So it's actually very heavy, while the fuel cell will weigh just over 100 kilograms. Yeah. So and hydrogen, as you know, is very light. Yeah. So for big vehicle, it is actually better to use fuel cell. And that's where I think we are going. And and if you can bring the price of hydrogen down, then of course it's better for all vehicles, even smaller vehicles. And that is where Sarawak, I think, is going ahead with hydrogen, because we think that hydrogen will be the fuel of the future. And EV, there is a still role of EV, a transitionary role, I think, because still there will be still a lot of EV produced, and price will also be coming down. There will still be people who want to use EV, but to me, there won't be much competition, especially when think of terms of big cars or big vehicle and small vehicle. It's battery for smaller vehicles, and the fuel cells or hydrogen for the much bigger vehicles. Yeah, and I mean, in terms of lorries, for example, carrying heavy loads, it's so much better to use fuel cells, hydrogen. Yeah.
Great. Tan Sri, maybe perhaps I recently attended the Borneo Energy Transition Conference, which was organized by SEDC itself, SEDC Energy. So I think one of the grouses that I heard throughout the conference was, especially from energy players, is that the issue of funding and financing, especially coming from the financial sector. So what is the issue between, or the discord between the energy sector as well as the financial sector, and how do we go about this thing?
I don't see much problem here, because at the moment, as far as SEDC is concerned, we have been actually been told by the financial sector that if it is going for green, renewable, then there is actually funding available. I mean, most bank or commercial institution would like to fund this sort of project. See, if you want to build a coal plant, it's almost impossible to get the funding now. So I think, but if you want to do a plant which is based on renewable energy, for example, based on say wood pellet, for example, it's so much easier because it is green and renewable. So I to me, it would not be much problem if the project give you the right return and will be able to be sustainable in the future. I don't think there's any problem with the banks. Of course, the problem is if the people who are developing the project, they are new, they are not yet, they have no prior experience, so no track record. So that is the problem. Yeah, because the bank would want to see somebody who has the experience, who has track record, and if they actually go into this sort of project, I don't think there's a problem of funding. Yeah.
My question: does Sarawak have any issue in securing funding?
And you mean our SEDC?
Yes.
Well, of course, there will be challenges, but as far as we are concerned, we have been able to get the funding required for our project. And I think if it's hydrogen, I don't see much problem, because actually the banks are knocking at our doors at the moment, to fund the projects, to fund this sort of projects.
Because embarking on this journey, of course, as well in the long run, it will give greater returns. If you take a look at ESG, it will, without leaving the people also behind in improving the economy, it also opens up doors for demands, opportunities in the state's development sector as well. And of course, sustainably pushing it itself to tackle climate change is also very important, right, Tan Sri? Tan Sri, just now earlier, I mean, we're just keen to know, you mentioned just now earlier on using wood pellets. So as we all know, recently this year, our Premier of Sarawak, Dr. Pentti Tan Sri Abang Johari Jonapang, mentioned that there is there was end of last year, on studying the possibility of using wood pellets to generate additional energy for the state in his previous visit to Norway. I mean, how does the transition of this also, I mean, we might be keen to know also, generating it from wood pellets, how does it work?
Oh, actually, wood pellet is actually to replace coal, which is, so what we are going to look at is actually to produce what we call biocoal, which is at the moment we're looking at the feasibility of combining our waste, algae waste actually. So after you press the algae, you got the waste and you got the oil. So the waste from the algae still contains some lipids or some oil for that matter. And this can be actually mixed with wood pellets to produce what we call biocoal, and which I think will be able to be used in power plants. So our plan is part of also SEDC plan to actually look at this power production using biocoal, which is a mixture of our biomass from algae and wood pellets from the sustainable forest plantation. So these two together, I think, would be able to generate enough biocoal to run at least 1 megawatt plant if we build one in Bintulu. Yeah.
I see, Tan Sri. That's very interesting. We talk about green economy. We
Yes.
not only have hydrogen,
And Cheryl,
solar.
yes, speaking of green energy, 2027, that's an important year, I would say, because that is the year where Sarawak intends to export hydrogen. So how far along are we?
Maybe not 27 for exporting. I think this because to export hydrogen, as you said, we need the power. Okay, and only when the power is available, then we can actually produce hydrogen in that large quantity. And at the moment, because Bale Dam has been postponed, I mean, in terms of its completion, so we will not be able to have enough power yet for mass or large-scale production of hydrogen, maybe until 28 at the earliest. Yeah, yeah. For large-scale hydrogen production, and that is why I think it is also the plan to have this biomass using algae and wood pellet. If that can be done earlier or sooner, that would enable us to produce enough power to actually produce hydrogen using this, because this will be green energy, and therefore it will be able to produce green hydrogen. So this is something that we are also working at, hopefully, and of course depending on the viability of the whole scheme and the funding of the project again, because this is not cheap. Power plants are all very expensive. We should be able to actually looking at 28, 29 before we can export hydrogen out of Sarawak. Yeah, I think 27 is a bit ambitious at the moment. Yeah.
All right, and Tan Sri, speaking of ambition as well, maybe before we end the topic of the hour here, of course, Douglas and I would like to request for you, I mean, this is your slot and your time, that maybe you have any parting message that you wish to share with our viewers or Sarawakians, you know, on behalf of SEDC towards the green energy agenda that we have on the state.
Well, SEDC, as you know, have come quite far in terms of this energy development, because this is something new for us. And this is why I think I would like to actually remind our people, especially people at SEDC, to actually look forward and cooperate and work together in terms of being able to, say, assist in this new economy or new venture of renewable energy, because we are venturing in a number of things, not only in one thing. We have actually come very far. We have our lows and our ups and downs, but I think overall we have actually proceeded to a point where I think we have, as you say, been highlighted not only locally in Sarawak, Malaysia, and a lot of the other states in Malaysia are also interested to do the same thing, but also in the world, as you mentioned just now, you know, ambassadors from European countries have been coming. I think they have actually came to SEDC for briefings, and also ambassadors from Latin America also came down to see what we are actually doing here in Sarawak that actually has put Sarawak in the world map because of our venture into green hydrogen and renewable energy. So I think it's something for people in SEDC and also people in Sarawak to be proud of, and I hope that they will support us in this venture of ours and and look up to also participate or to actually try to get their friends, families, children, to know more about the subject matter, hydrogen, renewable energy, climate change, and things like that. And I think that would help a lot in terms of Sarawak being able to put Sarawak in the map in helping with this climate change.
I see. All right. Thank you so much for it, Tan Sri, and also thank you so much for your time to spend with both Dr. Sai, sharing.
Definitely, it's been an insightful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
And of course, the people of Sarawak, should be ready. As Sarawak is being placed already on the global map and world map, and hopefully more to come. And of course, without having this green energy transition is not without its challenges, Douglas.
Of course,
but
definitely.
it is also made possible. And thanks to the man of the hour, thank you so much, Tan Sri Dr. Amar Abdul Aziz, Chairman of SEDC, for sharing with us your insights. And of course, we've come to the end of the session. Here with me, Shal Shamato, signing off alongside.
And I'm Douglas Elliott. Don't forget to tune in to Dialog TVS every Thursday at 8:45 p.m. Until the next episode. Thank you so much.